Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Podcast. Coming back to you with NBA night number 2 in this young season so far. Josh Lander coming to you as I'm going to be doing each and every weekday of this season. Also going to be playing some weekday plays for you as always, but looking forward to plenty of action here with a 12-game slate on the second night of NBA action. So let's jump right into it. What we're going to be talking about on the show today, we're going to be looking at our best bets, as always. 3 best bets today. Happy to say I went 2-1 in those. We'll talk about the record in just a second. I'm going to have 3 Lander leans for you as well. Those are in place of the Lander ladder right now. Even though there's plenty to choose from out there, we need to get a little bit of a feel for these rotations, see how some of the early minutes will be spent by these coaches and which guys are going to be in there for the majority of the time. Not really sure yet enough to get some ladders in there, at least not on this slate. So we're going to look at 3 leans because there's so much to look at. I want to make sure I at least get you some bets that I'm thinking about and might pull the trigger on. Make sure you are following on social media. That's where I continue to put these bets out throughout the day. You know, it's the NBA, man. Like, there's going to be injuries and guys coming in and out. Before you know it, there's 3 guys you thought were starting that aren't. See Bradley Beal yesterday. Devin Booker was a start and played really well for the Suns. But we didn't know if he was going to be playing up until roughly, an hour before game time. So make sure to follow along on social media, like I said, so that you can go ahead and get all of the picks that I put out throughout the day after these videos and podcasts come out for you. And lastly, I'm going to throw a parlay for the people. That's never going to stop us, no matter what part of the season it is. We're always going to be throwing a parlay for the people into these shows. In this one, I think I've got a pretty fun one, something that we're all going to care about. So we'll talk about that one. In order to do that, though, once again, you do need to be following along on YouTube here, like and subscribe on the podcast, follow along as well, and rate it if you would. That makes you eligible for that parlay for the people, which I'll go ahead and get to you guys here at the end of this show. So make sure to like this episode and be subscribed, like I said. Let's go ahead and get right into some best bets, though. We've got Wemby kicking things off for us, man. Like it's National Wemby's first day, right, in the NBA. So we've got to get some Wemby stuff out there for you. Over 2.5 blocks for Wemby, plus 110. Let's get a full unit on that. Let's also go over 17.5 points for him. Minus 115. That's 1 unit for us as well. I really like the points and the blocks, to be honest with you. If you're looking at some of the stats around what he's done in preseason, and I'm going to put a little bit of stock in that, like enough to give me, hope in these bets that I've got for you here. 19 points per game, 2.8 blocks. That's in 20 minutes. Now, you could say that's going to be about what he plays in the regular season as well, especially in the early going. Not sure if he's going to be out there for too long, but I do think I'm projecting him for about 28 minutes in this game. And if you're going to expand what he did in the preseason against starters, by the way, I was at that Warriors game against the Spurs at the last preseason for both teams. And that was the starters in there for the Warriors that he was doing that over. No Draymond Green, but plenty of other players out there for them. So the 20 minutes a game that he got there, I think that gets bumped up a little bit in the regular season because now it's real time. And like he's shown that he can do it against whomever he's out on the court against. In this game, he's going to be out on the court against Derek Lively, rookie out of Duke. And the backup there, maybe start a guy who could come in for early minutes too is Dwight Powell. He's questionable to play. So another guy early on who's already having some injury issues, even if he is out there, that's a solid 8 inches that he's giving up to Wemby. So there's really nobody out there that can make up for what he's going to be bringing in length and size. This is going to be a faster game than you might think. The Mavs played a little bit faster with Kyrie once they acquired him last season. And you're talking about a Spurs team that was in the top 5 in pace. And you know that that's going to be what Pop does with his young guys in this game is just run them up and down the floor as much as he can. That's why he has such a deep rotation that he goes to and plays guys a lot of different minutes. A lot of different guys, a decent amount of minutes. So that's why Wemby won't probably get to 30, but I don't think he needs it to get this one for our first best bet in terms of over 2.5 blocks and over 17.5 points. Moving on to the second best bet here. We're going to Kuz, baby. Really excited to talk about Kuz right now because this is a guy who was really good last year, and I don't think his production is going to go down. My co-host on the NBA Coast to Coast podcast, Nate Weitzer, is scared of this bet because he's scared of anybody not named Jordan Poole shooting the ball for the Wizards. I can understand that, but Jordan Poole isn't even really the point guard. He's the off guard. The starting point guard on this team is Tyus Jones. So for Kuz, we're going over 6.5 rebounds at plus 110 for 1 unit. I know I was talking about the scoring a little bit. But the thing is like I was thinking about the points and rebounds as well, and I just went with the rebounds because you get the plus money there. And I'll heed some of Nate's advice that Jordan Poole is going to be stealing shots from guys at an alarming rate. So we'll keep it to the rebounds because we get plus money. And I was really, talking about Kuz in a way that was uplifting based on his rebounding ability. It was awesome last year against this team specifically. They're playing the Pacers, are the Wizards, averaged 22 points and 9 boards versus Indy last year. That's why, once again, you easily get over the 22 and a half points and rebounds. If you wanted to play that for Kuz and you feel a bit more comfortable with it, by all means, go ahead. Indy allowed the 5th most points per game to power forwards last season. Didn't really do much. I mean, look, Jarris Walker, their rookie, is going to come in and play some forward, and he's a very, very good defender, very athletic, and will definitely help them in that area. But I'm not even sure how many minutes he's going to get. This is a super deep rotation. It's his first game, the Rook, and there's plenty of guys that are going to need to come off the bench for Indy in this one that he might have to wait his turn a little bit before he gets to playing against Kuz anyway, who's a starter and will be playing starter minutes. Like I was saying, Tyus Jones will be in there, which helps this offense in general, but it's also going to be a fast pace. The Wizards, they varied their pace for sure. There were times that they played really slow and choppy. And when Daniel Gafford is on the floor, the center for them, he'll probably slow things down a little bit, even though he moves pretty well for a really big guy. But the pace is really about the Pacers here. The Pacers with a super, super fast pace, which was always in the top 5. And when Halliburton was out there, it was usually around the fastest or second or third, up there with the Kings as another really fast team last year. So with that in mind, there's going to be shots going up. That's what a fast pace means. These shots go up quickly, which increases the possessions, which increases the ability for rebounds. So for basically the second best rebounder on this Washington Wizards team, with Gafford being the best, I think Kuz is going to have an opportunity to get plenty of boards against a team that was not good at guarding his position last season. Third best bet of the day here, Franz Wagner. Very excited to talk about Franz, as are a lot of people. And I just want to make clear, a lot of people are talking about Zach Lowe's podcast where he mentioned that he has Franz Wagner for most improved player in the league. It's not a bad bet. You can get it at like 25-1 still, I believe. But like, he was also just saying that because it's a part of a gimmick that he has to do for his show. He even admitted, like, I don't know, I'll just take him because I think he's going to have a leap. But that doesn't mean he's going to win the award because there's a lot more that goes into it. Still, the leap is probably there for him. And the leap is more of just like the natural progression of a young guy who led Germany to that title there in FIBA. He was a huge part of that team, if not the most important part of it. Schrader played really well as well. But Franz and his growth on that team, and we've seen it plenty of times with guys who play for their Olympic team in some fashion or international games, and that helps them grow in the offseason. And that's going to be the case, I think, for Franz. So the bet is over 22 and a half points and rebounds for Wagner, minus 110 with a full unit for him on that as well. He's playing in a game now where they're going up against the Rockets, which we'll see what we get from the Rockets in Ime's first year with the team, and obviously a big overhaul on the roster. But I still think the defense is going to struggle to get to where Ime wants it. That's for sure. And he's going to be going up probably against Dylan Brooks, playing shooting guard there is likely who he'll guard. Although Brooks could also easily be guarding Paolo as well. Maybe he'll be switching back and forth. Either way, when Franz played against Dylan Brooks last season, when he was on Memphis, was Brooks, 22 points per game and 3 boards, which gets you over the 22 and a half there pretty comfortably. He did better than that against Houston in general last year, who was the 6th worst team in allowing points per game to shooting guards. He averaged 24 points per game against Houston in 2 matchups, which gets you over the points and rebounds right there. Also had 3 boards per game in those matchups. So I think he's good for 3 to 4 boards this year. That's where I project him. His usage is going to be maintained in that 20 to 22% range, equal or a little bit less than Paolo. And this is going to be another good matchup for him in the opening game of the season, where I think he's in really good shape and ready to roll. So moving on to the Lander leans. 3 of those. And for those of you saying like one Lander ladder misses all 3 rungs and you're out, and it's like, no, let's relax. Christian Wood's usage wasn't quite what I thought it would be. His minutes were at 15, really was hoping for 20, didn't get it. Wondering why when AD didn't even score in the second half, but we move on. Either way, there's just so much out there right now. I wanted to talk about at least a few other games to make sure that you guys knew I was eyeing these and am planning a small bet on these. Because as I talked about yesterday, we're going to be putting reasonable unit sizes on these bets. These wagers are not going to just be letting things fly with a unit here and a unit there. So these are 3 leans where I'll be putting a half a unit or less on them. When you hear me talk about a lean, it means I haven't bet it yet, but I'm looking at playing it, and it's probably going to be less than half a unit depending on how confident I feel. Once again, if you follow along at JL Boogie on both Instagram and Twitter, you'll be able to make sure that you get those picks when they come out throughout the day, regardless of if I can get them in time for the video. So the 3 leans for today: Zion Williamson, under 24.5 points. It's scary because he played 29 games last season. He went over 24 points 20 of those 29 times. That's a very good percentage. And he doesn't need much time to score a lot of points, which is probably good if you like the over, because he's not going to play a lot of minutes. So he's going to need to be efficient with that. I understand they're going up against a Memphis team that doesn't have Brandon Clark or Steven Adams now, who's out for the season. And that's bad. And I don't like that for them. And I would consider taking New Orleans on their money line as well in that game, which is a little bit worse than even money, but basically even money. It's just with this game, Zion not playing in almost a full calendar year. Like, I don't know what type of shape he's in. I don't like the news that's coming out consistently with him. Trey Murphy's not playing, which is bad, but it gives it's one less guy for him to kick out to when he's running down the lane with the ball. Still, I just think it's too many points, and I would lean under on him. And I think I'm going to test that out in this one. Even though, ceiling wise, if Zion goes bananas, we know that the ceiling is definitely over 30 points in however many minutes he gets. So we'll see how that goes. But it's a scary under to start the season for me with Zion on the points. Sac in Utah, they're in Utah, and Sacramento is -1.5 favorites. I get it. I think it's pretty reasonably priced. But my projections for the season just have Sac as so much better than the Jazz in this one, like 10 wins better, that I think at least maybe close to 15, depending on how this Utah season pans out. I think they're in line for some regression rather, and we don't know what Danny Ainge is going to do overall. But still, I'll take my chances in the first game that's going to be the case right away for the Jazz. Even though they're good at home, they always have a solid home court advantage. They're coming up against a Sac team who was the best team on the road against the spread when they were road favorites last season, which happened a number of times for them. So I in general, when they were on the road, 26-15 against the spread as the away team. So I think that their ability to just run and not worry about setting up an offense and having the crowd impact what happens to them, because they're already just going. There's no worry about noise when you're just flying down the court, as I think they'll continue to do this season. No reason to expect any difference in their style of play. This is ripe for maybe an over, but it's just very high. So I lean Sac -1.5, probably sprinkle a quarter of a unit on that or so. Portland at the Clippers, Portland +9.5. I'm taking Portland +9.5. I mean, I don't trust this Clippers team. Nate and I both talked about it on the show, the Coast to Coast show, and this is a lean for me. It's a complete, bet for Nate there, one of his best bets. But I think this falls under lean for me because I'm still scared, and there's still going to be some combination of Kawhi and Paul George, unless, of course, we find out Kawhi's not playing 9 minutes before tip-off. Always a possibility, but that would only help us with this Portland team, who we know who's going to be playing for them. And I do think there's a pretty strong a chance that this Portland team blows up at some point in the season. It's likely, almost as likely as it is not likely, that things go awry for Portland throughout the season, with too many guys needing the ball, Jeremy Grant being a weird contract that doesn't help them. If anything, it just hurts them. So I don't love what is the long play for the Blazers, but this is a short play. This is them in a spot where they're getting 10 points, basically. Might be down to 9 by the time you see this video. I do think some people are going to be hitting this for the Blazers, and I'm going to be putting a half a unit on it. It's probably my strongest lean here. Maybe should have started with it. Either way, I'm making it clear now. +9.5 for the Blazers is my strongest lean in this one. Let's get to the parlay for the people. I'm being lame because I'm going back to Wemby, but I'm up in the stakes for him a little bit so that we can get a little bit more juice on this parlay for the people. Victor Wembanyama in his season debut against the Mavericks, 3+ blocks and 20+ points. If you same game parlay those on DraftKings, you get +350 on it. I like to get you guys. I was an $80 potential payout yesterday, so I'm not going to go under that. So we're making sure we get above that. We're going 0.3 units for him to get that parlay for us. I already told you the stats on it. I don't need to go through it too much more, but this man defies humanity in terms of proportionality. And so I'm going to continue to believe that he is going to mystify rather, people on the court who don't think he has the opportunity to block them when he truly does. He's a walk-in 3 blocks, the 20 points. I mean, the usage is going to be there for him on offense. He's not scared to shoot. And that 3 ball is pretty wet. At that mid-range game is very wet. Going to the rim, he's going to be a problem against Derek Lively and whatever other 6'8" dude tries to guard him. So he's a great bet here for the parlay for the people. And that is all the time that I have for you guys in this one. Appreciate you hanging around with me. I'm going to be getting these videos out to you earlier. I know I need to do a better job. That's on me. Most importantly, let's do better than 0.4 units, losing 0.4 units as we did yesterday. And I think we're going to here with a really fun full slate for you. So until I do talk to you tomorrow, happy betting.